Good evening. My name is Virgil Wood. I'm a retired Baptist pastor, and I'm here at the invitation of my dear friend, good friend of many years, Harvey Cox. And when I heard what you were doing tonight, I said, Harvey, I would love to be there, even if I have to walk all the way from Houston. I didn't have to walk, but I'm here. I want to thank Mr. Morales for his leadership and for all of you who are taking the role of calling us to an awakening of our greatness. But I think you know it's dangerous to give a black Baptist preacher a microphone. First of all, he might try to take an offering. I'm not going to do that. The second thing is it takes a Baptist preacher 5 minutes to clear his throat. So I'm going to try to overcome all of that tonight. I'm delighted in what you're doing. I would like to think, I had the pleasure of working, some of you know, with Martin Luther King the whole time of his national work for about 10 years. And that covered at least 7 or 8 years here in Boston, where I had the pleasure of bringing him for marches. Next April will be the 50th anniversary of that Boston March, where we had 40,000 people on Boston Common. But if Martin were here tonight, if Dr. King were here tonight, I think there were some things that he would say to you, and I want to try to say some of that. And I'm just delighted also in the leadership of Dr. Jonathan Walton in this great ministry here at Memorial Church and his colleagues. First of all, if Martin were here tonight, I think he'd say 3 things to you, and then I'm going to be through. First, if he were here tonight, I think he would remind us that the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice. Don't forget that. It's important to remember that the moral arc bends towards justice. If I had time tonight, I would tell you how, in terms of our American experience and the Americans' original sin, that every time that moral arc has arched a little bit more towards justice, at that intersection you will find a black person and a white person. I wish I had time to get into that. I won't. But I think there's a kind of a beloved community hall of fame, I'll call it that. It started with Moses. It's a march that has come down through the years. It's not going to end with us, and we're kind of trying to key into it. But that's a contingency. The fact that the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice is contingency. There's some contingencies there. So the second thing that Martin would say to you, or as his predecessor at the Dexter Church in Montgomery, they used to say, the great Brennan John, some of you may know his story, just extraordinary. John says, when you see a good fight, get in it. And that's what I think you've done. This is a good fight. You're in a good fight. You've gotten into it. So that's what Martin would say, and he would say, congratulations. But it's only a contingency factor. The second thing Martin would say to you, that moral law of the universe, though it bends towards justice, it's long. And I think what I want you to think about as you enter this fight, incidentally, driving over with Capture tonight, I had a chance to try to get a little survey on what's going on in mind with some taxi drivers, and I had the opportunity to solicit his votes tomorrow, and I have to tell you that he wasn't planning to vote yes, but he's going to vote yes now, and I'm really happy about that. Preachers have something else going on. I met a young man, I asked him, which way is it Memorial Church? I just said, I was at a different part of the campus, and we got to talking. We knew some of the same people. And then I said to him, well, by the way, how are you going to vote on Proposition 3 and 4? and it took just a little bit. It was cold up there, the wind was high, so I didn't have too much time. But when I left him, he said, well, I'm going to vote yes. I just want you to know that I made my little contribution to that. The moral arc of the universe not only is long, that's a contingency factor. It bends towards justice. That's what you got to keep in mind. It bends towards justice. You're not into a pipe dream when you fight for what is right. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that it is long. Because it is long, what you're doing must not be an episode. Please. It must not be an episode. Because there's two kinds of victories that you have potential here. The first victory is the victory in the vote. But there's a victory beyond the vote. What is there about the fight in the dog? Or if the fight you're in is big, but your fight got to be big too. And it's got to be persistent. I'd like to suggest that what we're dealing with is not just trying to stop something. You don't stop something simply by being against something. You've got to have a two-way strategy. That's where the victory in the vote is part of that. But there's a victory beyond the vote. Here's what Dr. Mays told me years ago. Benjamin Mays, great Benjamin Elijah Mays, Martin Luther King's spiritual mentor. Also, Dr. Jonathan's mentor also, Jonathan Walton, his minister here. Dr. Mays told me that I was commiserating about who's not doing what. Here some of us out here doing what we ought to do, and I'm all carried away about who's not doing what. And Dr. Mays said, Dr. Wood, if they don't count, don't count them. In other words, whoever is not doing anything, they don't count anyway, so let's don't waste time worrying about who is not with us. Be thankful for those who are with us and fight the good fight and don't stop. It must not be an episode, because victory can be in the vote, but what happens if the vote doesn't go the way we want it to go? Now watch this. I love what, I think it was one of the Roosevelt boys, Theodore Roosevelt, talked about failing while daring greatly. If you fail, having given it all you've got, you have won, because you're going to take something out of that lets you go to the next step. If I were in my church, I'd say, y'all say amen, that's okay. I know that's true. I know that's true. I don't want you to get up the next morning and maybe whether the vote goes your way or not. I want you to know the next morning whether your victory is in the vote, there is also a victory beyond the vote. Did I say anything? Yeah. That's the reconciling factor. The contingent factor is that the moral arc bends towards justice. But you've got to reconcile what you bring to the fight and what you're up against. But if I had time, I would talk about the difference in a predatory economy and a beloved economy. There's a difference. And you must oppose the predatory economy because it's like a giant suction machine. It's sucking the light, and the resources, especially people on the bottom. And if you don't do what you're doing, then you become an ally. And so I'm so happy that you're doing this. That's why I want to come to Houston and say to you tonight, hold your head up. Fight good fight. And when you do, watch what happens. Amen. Metaphor for freedom in America is the Liberty Bell. But guess what? Our tormentors used to say to us when we were marching in Roxbury and Birmingham and Montgomery, all over America, our tormentors used to say, you guys think that America can change. Well, America has a bell that you can't even ring. You know what we said to them? It may be a bell with a crack in it, but we're going to ring the damn thing anyway. who saw the old woman out there in the harbor with the words at the base, send us your tired, your poor, your teeming masses, your yearning to be free. Send me the tempest tossed to me. And it doesn't say we will fleece them. Send your sheep so we can fleece. It doesn't say, it says, send these the tempest tossed to me. I live my lamp beside the golden door. And I want to tell you tonight, the bell doesn't have to ring as long as we get the lesson that although there may be a flawed proposition, this American proposition, we can ring it anyhow, and the dawn will surely come. Thank you.